Well, hi, friends, and welcome to Costuming in Color. This is a YouTube show dedicated to showcasing amazing costumers of color and those that support them. I'm Gigi, a history buff, historical costumer, and dabblist.
I'm Noelle. I'm a costumer. I do it all. Today, we're interviewing Gaynell of our Mammies. Welcome to the show, Gaynell.
Thank you.
Am I saying your name correctly, Gaynell?
That is perfect. My mom made it really easy.
She did. It's great.
So before we get into the interview, we're going to let you know our house rules. The first rule of Costuming in Color is that you tell everyone about Costuming in Color.
Yes. That way, even if you don't have people of color in your local groups or communities, you can get to know some in our global community.
And the second rule is that kindness matters. Aside from that, there are no rules. So let's get into it. So Gaynell, where are you from and do you still live there?
I am from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I currently live here. So it's my home. I think it'll be my forever home, like retirement home. Yeah.
You guys are neighbors.
We are neighbors.
That's awesome.
I didn't realize that, and I'm so excited about it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about where you live?
The food. I love the food. I love the what I call front porch behavior. How we can all just meet up on the front porch, sit down, talk with each other, just hang out, listen to music. It's just kind of like a relaxed environment. And spoiled by all of like the architecture. Like you could go in the French Quarter and get inspired by anything, and then just 30 minutes out, it's like you're in another world. So I love this city. Couldn't live anywhere else. I tried.
Didn't work.
No, not at all.
So what is your Instagram handle and why did you choose it?
Ooh, my Instagram handle ties into the name of our Mammies. And I can tell you guys, it was not widely accepted when I first started. It was very challenging, probably for my first maybe 2 to 3 years. It started with my mom, and she was like, why in the world would you want to name a company that? And I was, I guess, as Dr. Antoinette Harrell would say, I was chosen to do it. I was selected by my ancestors to really teach people who they were, and like not these stereotypes that you may see on certain movies, that these women were beautiful, smart, brave, intelligent, powerful women in the African-American community. And you know, some people refer to them as Mammy. And I heard that word growing up. And at first I thought it was like, well, why are you calling my mama that? And it was her uncle that called her that. And I was just like, that's weird. I just, you know, he would call the phone and say, where's your Mammy? And I would hang up because I'm like, that's weird. And it wasn't until I started doing more reading, more researching, and doing more of my family history that I realized like these women that were stereotyped in the early 1900s, this just wasn't the people who were on my family tree. So I decided to take that name and redescribe who these women were. And so that's where our Mammies came from. And I just stuck with it through all of my social media platforms. I really wanted to use that word, that name, that phrase to like kind of like start conversations. Like, hey, you know, why would you name that? Well, let me tell you about it. Have you been in my programs? And just kind of like take the conversation from there. Just, I really wanted people to know about like the people that's behind Gigi. Like I really wanted them to know like who these women were, tell their stories and their real stories. Her.
What is the living history scene like where you live?
Well, I kind of created my own living history scene, right? Like I took an empty lot in the lower Ninth Ward. I purchased it from my parents, and you know, through the pandemic, I had a bunch of people with a little bit of time on our hands, and we started to build buildings and to create spaces where I can use them as a backdrop to tell stories and to do virtual visits with schools and family groups or just Girl Scouts, any groups that wanted to talk to me, because of course, with the pandemic, we were all locked and confined into spaces. So of course, you know, I have a background in museums. I worked at a couple of museums in New Orleans, and I was also a park ranger for the National Park Service. So I knew that I could always visit those sites, but I wanted my own space so I can do it my way. And I think that was a reaction to the things I wanted to see in the museums in the area that I didn't see. So I created my own space. I call it my retirement plan.
That's absolutely amazing. Can you tell us like how How can people participate in what you are creating?
So right now, thanks to my good friend Hurricane Ida Mae, as I call her, you know, a lot of the progress that we made in that space, I just had to start everything from scratch. I'm hoping to, in the new year, be able to offer regular scheduled programs where people can tune in and to watch me in front of one of my buildings. My ultimate goal, depending on how much time my husband will have off in the next couple of weeks, is to reveal the juke joint to you guys on New Year's Eve. If I can get it open. So all of my buildings, I have one building that you could actually walk in, but all the other ones are just like the front facades. Like, just, I wanted to depict African-American life after emancipation. So it's set in that period of like, I would say late 1880s, 1890s moving forward. So of course I have this little thing that I say that the back of the plantation was jumping, and I wanted to show how. So I want to show that we had a juke joint, we had schools, we had churches, we had a full community with leaders in those communities. And of course, Mammy was at the forefront. You know, our grandmothers were the people that held these communities together. So
that's amazing. That is so amazing. This video will go live, I think, the first week in January. So like, hopefully we'll be able to like point people to you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When I think of juke joints, I think of The Color Purple and The Singer. So that was like the 20s?
Yeah.
So even as early as that, and maybe even before? Okay.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Every building or every mock building in a yard, I'm dedicating it to either one of my ancestors or one of my husband's ancestors. And my particular juke joint was done in honor of my great aunt Alice and her husband Joe Bradley. And the Bradleys had a juke joint in, what is it? Oh gosh, my brain just, Rougon is right outside of Glen, Louisiana. And it was called the Joe Bradley Dewdrop Inn. And the building is still standing, even though Joe was killed in the 50s, died a very tragic death. He was actually murdered, but his juke joint is still there. And Aunt Alice used to make the moonshine, the drinks for the juke joint. I don't have the recipe. I could try, but yeah, I want to tell all of those pieces of the stories. Aunt Alice's house is still there in that area. So like I said, I wanted to incorporate as many of my ancestor stories as I can and ultimately add their names to the buildings, even the ones that they didn't own, but I felt they should have owned. So that's the goal.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So we've heard a little bit about what you do, but tell us how you describe, like, what labels do you use for what you do? Do you call it living history? Do you call it interpretation? What are your labels?
And it's funny that you asked me that question. When people used to say, hey, Gaynell, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm an educator. And I recently read a newspaper article, and it was a newspaper article. It was a television program for a local TV station. And he's like, oh, genealogist, historian. I was like, wait, I am? And it was like, yeah. And I told my husband, like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I cried when I saw that. And when the guy said it, and I was just like, wait, I am? You know, even though like that's my formal training, like, you know, I didn't start calling myself like a historical interpreter until I finished my CIG training with NAI. And it was just like, I had people tell me like, you are already doing the work. So I think I had a little bit of like imposter syndrome going on. And to be honest, I was just so focused on doing the work and just getting the stories out there that I wasn't concerned with the labels at all. Like, you know, people, when I talk to them about our Mammies, they don't realize like, wait, she actually owns it, because I'm so busy just doing what I love, doing what I care about. And you'll find me in any room with kids sitting on the middle of the floor. I forget that I have a dress on because I'm in the middle of the floor, sitting on the floor with the kids. Just once we get a lesson going, it's on. Like, I love going to summer camps, and there's one summer camp near the Desire Housing Project that I go to every year, no matter what. And I love it. And now this year, because the kids have kind of like grown up with me, they say, we want to do some cooking. And I'm like, oh boy. So I have to prepare for that and be able to actually cook with them. The fact that I've had some of them since they're 5 years old. and now they're up to 9 and 10. They've already built upon the things that I've taught them year after year, and now they want to apply some of it. So I feel really good to have that group of kids, like really, like, you know, I'm going to leave here and go ask my grandma questions. Like, I really want to learn more. So I feel I don't pay attention to, like, you know, all of the titles. I know I should, but I don't.
It's okay. My takeaway is that you are an educator, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are operating in the realm of historians and genealogists and
Mm-hmm.
living historians, especially. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to put a label on what you do, because it sounds like you do a lot of different things.
I do, and it's all hard work, I would say. I love this city. If you haven't known anything else about me, I love New Orleans, but I love Louisiana. And one day I will hope to be called an ambassador to the state. Like, I really love my state, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we have a little bit of ugly. But I do love it. And I embrace the good. And that's why I always felt that I would raise my kids in New Orleans, because of the amount of love in this city, right? Like, we don't have really big issues here. I mean, everybody's just like, your neighbor's your neighbor. It almost is family after you live there so long. So I don't think I could live anywhere else. But yeah, ambassador, that's what I'm looking for, right?
City Councilman of New Orleans, we would like you to pay attention to this statement.
Yes.
For living history or historical costuming, what time period or place is your favorite?
Ooh. You know, I go through phases.
Yeah, we all do.
You know, like, and it depends on my mood. And I have this weird little ritual that I'll go through depending on the space and place. I'll grab a bunch of dresses, right? And it's not usually revealed to me until the morning of that I'm actually wearing this dress. All of my dresses that I've either, like, this piece was purchased, I didn't make this, but I buy them or either make them in honor of one of my grandmothers. And, you know, and I know it may sound weird, but in the middle of the night between 3 and 5 a.m., I don't know why they don't come at 6 or 7 or 8, but I'll get, like, it would be almost like a message, like, hey, this is the story you tell today. So even though, and I tell people that, like, as much as I want to come and portray Grandma Lizzie as the midwife, I'm sorry, today you got Grandma Sally, I'm a cook. And it's, you know, so I can't say that I have, like, a specific, you know, piece. I know that I get a lot of love in all of the pieces that I wear. It's just, it depends on the mood. It depends on the message that I receive. And then, you know, I go through this whole little ritual in the bathroom in most of the spaces that I'm in. And I always say, Grandma, don't let me tell anything about you that you don't want me to say in the wrong way. It's almost like asking for permission to move forward. And there's been, like, the last 2 programs. Normally I don't do programs or presentations or talks without the clothing on. But the last 2 was like, no, you're not wearing that. And I would have the full outfit. And it was like, no, you're wearing your street clothes. Goodbye. I tried to. It's funny. I wish my husband would do, like, videos and behind the scene photos of me. Like, I've tried to do, like, the, you know, like the little head wraps and stuff, and I start to tie them, and I'm focused on tying them a certain way. Doesn't work. It's like, literally, you're portraying me. We're not getting tied this way. We're going to get tied this way. And I feel very fortunate to hear that voice in my deaf ear. I really do.
Wow. That's kind of amazing.
I feel very fortunate to have that ability. I could say that I know for a fact, like, all of my ancestors who have been here with me at some very difficult times in my life, they have helped to keep me on this planet when I've had some really, really horrific times. One example, when I say my deaf ear, I lost the hearing in my ear. I only have about 20%. And no, I don't wear a hearing aid, but I was really depressed about it. I was really upset, hurt. I cried for days, and they tried to put steroid injections in my ear to get my hearing back, and it didn't work. And I cried, and I told my husband, how can I do these programs if people can't hear me? And I mean, I can't hear them, and I can't hear what people are saying. And my husband took me to St. Francisville, Bayou Sarah area, where my ancestors were from. And I heard a voice telling me it's going to be okay. I snapped out of depression just like that, got back in the car and said, okay, I'm ready to do our Mammies again.
Wow. That's incredible.
And I felt that was Grandma Lizzie because she was a midwife in that area. So
maybe you have that ability because you're open to listening to it.
I think so. I think I couldn't have done it. I can't do this without them. And a lot of people, they try to get me to portray like really, I would say, famous people in African-American history. And I was like, I can't do that. I would shut everything down before I do that, because my whole point was to recognize those who are never recognized. I want to share their stories because a lot of times their stories mirror someone else's ancestor stories who have been forgotten.
Right.
So since we talked a lot about the historical aspect of what you do, I want to ask you, do you think you would ever try cosplay?
I would love to if I had permission. And that's the thing, right? Like leading into following up on the conversation we just had, I don't think that I could do it. If they gave me permission to do it, I'll try it. I love it. Like, I guess I see some of the stuff on Instagram by a lot of like people that I follow. I'm like, man, that's really cool. Like, I'll admit on 9/19 every year, National Talk Like a Pirate Day, I'm there for it because that's my birthday, right? Like I figured they'll give me that one. So I have my little pirate stuff, and I love hanging out and chatting it up with the Baratarians at Chalmette Battlefield. And I look forward to the day that I could get out there and hang with those guys and do like my pirate stuff. So that's a little bit of what I love, but right now I feel like I have work to do. So, and there are things that are calling me, that space on Flood Street that everybody has been supporting me with. I'm focused on that, but I would love to do some of that stuff. I mean, it's amazing. It's just, I don't have permission yet.
Maybe someday.
Maybe, yeah. I'm pretty sure pirates gonna be involved.
Okay, that sounds great. How did you start in living history?
I would say from the very beginning. I always tell people I started our Mammies in 2013 with one dress and a wash bucket. And 8 years later, I have to have a separate storage unit to hold all of the stuff that I have. Wow. And I have notes, and I've had some really, I wouldn't say weird, but from the beginning, I did my little business plan and I started to write out like stories about all of these women that I've heard about in history. And it was funny because I named two of them. And it turns out those two people did exist on my family tree. And that's when I knew that I had something bigger than I anticipated. I gave these people, I have a little book with a full spreadsheet of every person that I wanted to talk about, along with their dresses and what I would do with those people. I would say from the very beginning, from March 2013, I just knew it. Couldn't be done without it.
And what keeps you in this educator role? What keeps you in the historical education community?
I would say things that I see in society. I feel that there's a need for more spaces where people can get together to talk about painful parts of history. I also see that in these clothing, using my family stories, I can help kids to gain a sense of pride about themselves and where they came from and who they are. And I feel that a lot of the problems in society can be solved just with a little bit of genealogy research.
What would you like to see improve in the historical education community?
Oh, child, grab a notebook.
This is always the one that I'm like,
yeah. I mean, the first thing is, for me, when it comes to history, just tell the truth. And let's just stick to that. If you can't do anything else, if I can get my one wish, just tell the truth. Tell it the way it happened. Like, really use those primary sources. Really take your time and not try to like put your own personal spin on it. Just tell it the way it happened and stop trying to force your opinions about the way you think it happened onto other people, because the truth has a way of coming out anyway. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, a lot of people believe that, all of the light-skinned African-Americans were, they were only in the big house. And, those were the people who were like, only, they only received certain things. And I was like, well, my DNA kind of proves otherwise. Like, I have a fifth, sixth great grandfather from Belgium. And I don't, that particular line, they were all in the fields. So it's kind of like, distorting history to fit a certain thing when, especially in Louisiana, man, those lines are so blurred. Just stick to the facts, stick to the documents, stick to the truth. It'll make it a lot easier, and just, educate yourself before you start to teach others.
Tell us about your favorite project so far.
So my favorite project that I'm working on right now, I would say the work that I'm doing with Hope Cemetery. And that's another side of me, right? Like, that's the side of me that speaks a lot to preservation of history, simply because so many of my ancestors, when they came to the New Orleans area, this was like the first generation off the plantations, and they came to the city. They were looking for better opportunities. They worked really hard. A lot of them were in the unions here, and this is where most of them on my maternal side are buried. And that cemetery is one of, I would say it's the most neglected cemetery in the city of New Orleans, and it sits right in the heart of the city. And all of the cemeteries that surround it, they're all well taken care of. They're beautiful. And in this place, because it's still very active, but full, is neglected because the city can't stop the burials for whatever reason or another. And they take place maybe about 4 or 5 times a week. And all of the headstones there, many of them are broken. All of the grave sites have to be, hand prepared because you can't get heavy equipment in there. There are just so many reasons why we should stop the burials there. And that's a lot of what I've been doing too, advocating for that, and then advocating for the preservation piece. There's about, I think, a little over 1,500 veterans buried there. And I don't think that they deserve that. Their headstones are dirty, and it's simply because, the staff and everybody else, they simply don't have the time and resources to get there to clean them. There are groups that go out for Memorial Day and to put flags in front of their gravestones, but more can be done. And I don't know what it'll take, but that's one of the things that I always fight for, because my mama Belle is buried there. And I told my husband, in 150 years or so, you can put me next to her.
Except that you're stopping the burials.
No, here's the thing. I want to stop it for general public, but not for families. Oh. If you want to, be buried near your ancestors, because there's a lot of family members there, and there's generations of burials, but new burials, no. Like, slow it down.
Yeah. Okay, adding some levity. What is the silliest thing that's ever happened to you during an event? You deal with kids, so.
And that's why I'm like, let's pull my favorite one. My silliest thing. Well, I've once burned like my pot of beef stew because I went in full educator mode and forgot that I was supposed to be cooking. So that ruined that. That made us hungry the rest of the day. I have, packed all of my clothes, get all the way to like Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Natchitoches even, and didn't pack any socks, didn't pack any stockings, and just so stuff like that. Kids are really funny. They're brutally honest. So I just be upfront with them and say, so this shouldn't be this way, because I don't want them like judging me or whatever. Because they're kids, they're going to tell me, why do you have your, this like pin holding your clothes? Well, because I sat down wrong in the car and it came open. So I lost the button. Yep. But yeah, I have that advantage, right? Like I feel that if I was in like some of the living history events that I heard about where they're literally counting stitches, then I would have a problem. But with kids, not so much. Not so much.
Is that actually something that happens? Like, do people actually count stitches? I have never been anywhere where that happens. Like, people talk about it like it's some myth, but I'm like, does it really happen?
It happens.
All right.
Like, I worked at Chalmette Battlefield for almost 4 years, and I was a volunteer coordinator. So I worked with the living history groups that would come in every year for the Battle of New Orleans, and they would. In fact, one of my coworkers, I'll call him out, Ranger Ron Miro, would literally, that's not period correct. Like, literally, he he doesn't know how much he's inspired me to like step up my game. Like, no, that fabric is not right.
Okay, fabric, yes.
Amount.
Period, correct, yes. But like counting stitches,
that's not put together properly. You probably shouldn't have bought it from here. Like, their things are not well put together. Like, literally, yeah.
Wow.
Those guys at the Chalmette Battlefield, they have their stuff together and they will challenge you.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, don't go there with your stuff falling apart and but Battle of New Orleans is fun. They're looking for more living historians. It's a great experience, but yes, they want to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, give me a call when it happens to you and say, Gaynell, I can't, girl, here's what happened.
I only had 10 stitches per inch, and someone told me that if it wasn't 12 stitches per inch that I couldn't attend, and I was like, suck it, and I left. That's the way that conversation would go.
He's not lying.
Wow.
Yeah, she would leave for sure.
I'd be like, nah, we're being inclusive here, stop that.
Yeah. And it makes an uncomfortable environment too, because a lot of people, when they first get started, like, they're still learning. Like, I look at some of my earlier pieces and say, girl, and then as you get older in the game, you kind of learn differently and you improve upon it. And it's not like you're trying to, like you said, impress someone else. You're just trying to do different because you know better now. And a lot of times too, this stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
So
it's expensive in so many ways. It's expensive money, but it's also expensive time. It's expensive experience. It's expensive, like, just the luxury to be able to have 5 minutes to do it. Like,
yeah. And I guess I don't want to run people away. Like, I'll just tell them, like, hey, you can borrow my stuff or just buy it. Like, it's okay. Like, if you can afford to buy it, don't worry about learning how to make certain pieces. I don't. Like, sleeves kick my butt.
Yeah.
And I'll admit that. Like, anybody who knows me knows sleeves will kick my butt. And that's when I first started to learn how to sew. I was like 10, 11. By the time I was 17, I was making my own prom dresses and stuff. But all those pieces were sleeveless. I was like, you really making? Yeah, I'm just, the sleeves would kick my butt. And that brown dress, I was so proud of myself. That was the first time I put a sleeve on and didn't need a drink after. It was amazing.
I love that feeling when you're like, it just went in. What?
Yeah. It was funny because it didn't line up the way that traditional sleeves would line up. Like, they were telling me to put it on. And I was like, do you want me to put it on this way? Wow, it works. Like, I was so proud of myself. Those are one of my, like, that's one of my favorite pieces in terms of, like, see, now making it, and it was just the way I wanted it to be. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, proud moment.
Do you have any sentimental memory events that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I will tell you guys this story about what happened to me when I went to West Baton Rouge Museum. So it's one of those places where I do programs at least once or twice a year up in Port Allen, Louisiana. And I was doing a program on the Underground Railroad. And it was one of those days where I was just like, I don't want to wear this dress. I want to wear this dress. I don't want to put this on. And then finally, when I got the clothes on, it was like, I'm going to say maybe 5 minutes before the event, and no one was there. And I was like, oh my goodness, this has never really happened. Most people are usually there in their seats ready to go. And, I had been thinking really hard about my Mama Belle. If you follow me, I love her to the core. I totally want to be her when I grow up. And I was like thinking really hard. And she was just like, oh, it's going to be fine. Whatever. Don't worry about it. Get ready. A bus pulled up. It was a bus load of people from Clinton, Louisiana. And that's where my Mama Belle was born. And I felt like she was saying, I told you. And they're here. And then the people literally told me, the ladies on the bus, they told me, we came to see you. So it was a full busload, multiple families who participated in that program. And if anybody else was there, we wouldn't have been able to accommodate them because we didn't have the space. So I was really, really touched by that event. In fact, I think I have that photo on social media with everybody standing on the porch of a slave cabin. All of those people came from Clinton, and the kids just hugged me. That was my funny grandma stories with the grandparents. Just, it was a great intergenerational audience and I loved it. And I had one other event like that happened. I went to Natchez, Mississippi, and I was with my husband that day. He was portraying a Union soldier, one of his grandfathers. And I was just there like to hang out and do our mammies and do a little bit of it, but more there as support for him. And these women, they just came up to me and they hugged me and was like, I came here to see you. And I was like, me? And it was like, yes, I heard you were coming and I follow you on social media and I came just to see you. And there's photos of her running up to me, like really running and to like jump and hug me. It made me realize like my work mattered. So both of those are the ones. And then just my last one that I'll tell you is just a few moments before this presentation, my youngest, Benjamin, he said, Mama, you do genealogy and history. And I think that's cool. And I was like, who told you I do that? How did you know? He said, I just know it's in my brain. So
that's really cool. That's really sweet. What historical groups or organizations are you in?
So I am a founding member of the Louisiana chapter of the African American Historical and Genealogy Society. I also, till pandemic, was a member of the Algiers Historical Society. I love those guys over there in Algiers. I have no ties to Algiers, but I present with them at least once or twice a year as well. And I think those are my main two that I'm in right now. I'm not involved in anything else. Like between the cemetery work, being a mom, being a wife, I have a lot going on. I can't commit to too much. You know, I have social things that I'm a part of, but not anything professionally.
What events would you recommend?
Oh, so I did mention one, the Battle of New Orleans anniversary event. I really love that one. I haven't had a chance to participate in it as our mammies, but it's a really cool event. There used to be this event in Natchez. I have to see if it still exists. It was called the Black and Blue event in Natchez, Mississippi. Is really cool. It's all Civil War folks and they come from all over. They were doing that, I think, up until 2020. I'm not sure if it's still happening. Post-pandemic world, it's like, I don't know what's happening, what's not happening. I love Sugar Fest at West Baton Rouge Museum. It's another cool event. I'm usually there every year, except pandemic. But those are like my faves. Those are like the ones that I've either participated in, helped to organize and stuff like that. Like those are really cool events in my area that I really loved. It was a great atmosphere, great food at Sugar Fest. Oh gosh, great food. But yeah, those are my favorite. I hope to see more of that in our area now that I know that Gigi's here. Maybe we need to work on that.
Yes.
But we need more of that. We need more events like that where kids can get in up close with history in a safe environment.
Do you have an educator crush?
Oh my gosh. I do. I'm just trying to think, like, do I want to go with living or deceased? I'm a
Do
weird
both.
bird.
Just give us both.
I mean, deceased, I love Nanny Helen Burroughs. I love her just because she was bold and brave and just kind of cocky with it, but she used education and religion to kind of like just push her way through. I really admire that. Like when she was supposed to be the little girl in the back of the church being quiet and standing in a woman's place, she just kind of stood up when she wanted to. So she's one of my favorites. I have like a lot of her books behind me. And then of course, like everybody loves Chaney McKnight. Like I see her and just do this. And I've never met her.
I had dinner with her twice and I was like that the whole time. I was like, hi.
I can see me doing that, right? Like she's fascinating. I've never had a conversation with her, to be honest. I've only maybe shared 2 words with her via social media. And there are a lot of things that I see that we're kind of like alike. Like our companies were started the same year, which is scary. The names are like, yours is not your mama's history. And I was like, I just jumped out there and said our names, like flat out. And I really admire her. There's like so many people that I admire that I've never met, but yeah, she would be at the very tip top that I would like have to meet. I'm not counting Gigi because she's here now and I'm like gonna see her soon. I only know people like Instagram handles, right? And I see pieces that are made by like, I think her name is Lauren Marks. And I'm like, whoa, how'd you do that? Like, I love her stuff. Just what's the other lady's name? Now maybe saying I didn't run this. Stacia Parker. I see her stuff, and I saw her in a Colonial Williamsburg magazine. I kept the magazine. I was really inspired by her stuff. And I was like, wow. But I'm friends with her on Facebook now. And not to mention Michael Twitty. He knows that I love him though. He knows. I'm always in his DM on Twitter and Instagram. And he chats it up with me. So yeah, that would be it. I know it was a lot, but yeah.
You need to talk to Cheney. Like, just ping her. She will talk to you for sure. It will take her 2 weeks to get back to you because she's super busy, but she will ping you back, and she's amazing. Aww. And you guys would be like a force together.
Wow. Yeah. I keep telling my husband right before the Pandora came, because I have to add in the hurricane too. Hurricane Ida Mae just came in and just shifted a bunch of stuff and things we wanted to do. Like, I was literally planning to go to Charleston, and pandemic hit, followed by the hurricane. And then I keep hurting myself that she just keeps pushing everything back. But it's on my list of places to see. I want to see Charleston. I want to see Richmond. I want to see New York, just because it's like all of those cool things. My husband and I want to go to Camp Nelson, Kentucky, because that's where his third great grandfather enlisted. So it's just little things like that. And I want to meet the people involved in those spaces. I want to do one of those living history courses and learn to do new things. And I want to bring stuff like that here. I hope that eventually my space can be used for stuff like that, like to bring some of that training here. I don't know. I want to do stuff. I want to learn more stuff. I want to be able to improve upon what I do and to be able to share that best I can.
Well, in the meantime, we're also going to pull in Naomi Loves History, because I think you two would also get along.
100%.
Yes. And I follow her and I love her.
I was supposed to go either.
I forgot that.
I was either supposed to go see her, or she was like, I might come visit you. So we need to have like if she comes here, we're coming to your house. So just know that.
Please. I'll burn some beef stew for you, because I'm not going to pay attention if you're there. So
Naomi is like the cutest human. Like, she is the most bubbly, fun, awesome chick ever.
Yeah. It's so funny that I forgot her. What the hell? I don't know what's wrong with me.
I bubble her in with Cheney. Like, to me, they're kind of like together as one. Yeah.
She's incredible too. And I followed her for I think a couple of years now. Never met her in person. Only exchanged words through social media. But I love her stuff too. There are so many people out there doing incredible things. It's hard to keep track. Like, look at that. Gigi's like literally, I can't walk because I'm lazy, but I can literally take a bus to Gigi's house and not even know it. And I think like one of the things that we need is like a meetup in spaces where we can share information like that, because we're duplicating a lot of efforts and we can work better together.
Yeah.
Agreed. So when you're sewing or practicing your next beef stew or some other cooking at home, do you have like an entertainment routine that goes with that? Do you have a playlist, or do you watch certain movies or shows while you are doing these things?
Yeah, keep that face. That's my behind the scenes music is rough. I am very much a Louisiana girl, and you don't want to see my Spotify playlist. You would think I'm like literally on the streets of Harlem somewhere making big exchanges. Like,
now I want to know. What is it?
So are we talking bounce music? Are we talking?
I do not bounce. That's the funny thing. I'm a New Orleans girl who does not bounce, but I listen to a lot of hardcore rap, and it's funny because I'll go from hardcore rap to straight 90.7 WWOZ jazz over to gospel. And my husband just like, you're all over the place, but it depends on my mood. Like, I literally work through the majority of my doctoral program listening to Boosie. And I know it's horrible. It's horrible music, but I'm such a Louisiana girl, but I listen to a lot of hardcore rap.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. It's very motivating.
A lot of it is like, and my husband's like, how can you sew something from a long time ago listening to? I was like, because it's entertaining.
Yeah. And it's got a good beat and it keeps you going.
The beat, right? Yeah. And then if it's not that, I'm a real, that little piece of Memphis, the time that I spent in Memphis for Hurricane Katrina, I'll go straight stacks on you. So I'm going to go Al Green, literally soul music. You would think, I was born in that time period because I know every song word for word. But those are my lanes. Like I literally go from one to another. Television, I don't get a lot of movies in television. When I want to decompress and I'm in a high pain mode, I'll do a full like box episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. I do. That's my guilty pleasure. I watch every episode because I think Marie is hilarious. So I will do that. So that's one of the ones I will do. I have a lot of Everybody Loves Raymond on Amazon and YouTube. I buy it because it's funny. Anyway.
It is. I agree.
It is. Yeah. I'm a weird person, I think.
Nope. You're completely normal.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to everything from rap to classical while I'm doing anything. So
yeah, I get it. I get it. I can't do a lot of classical. I think it's my days at Loyola University when I was pregnant with my oldest child. For some reason, it's so peaceful. Some of the songs.
No, none of that. It's like war classical.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Like Flight of the Valkyrie level.
Okay.
I'm attacking this gown now.
Yes, do it. I get it. That version, not
right.
It's yeah.
That other stuff is for sleepy. Who inspires you?
Mama Bell. Good answer. The only one that I could talk about that will bring tears to my eyes. The only one that I keep her photo near. Like if I literally stood up, I could grab her photo and show it. I keep it with me. Yep.
I can relate. One reason I like filming in this room is so I can look at that photo through the camera. I don't know, because I'm never in this room really looking at it, but whenever I see it behind me, I'm like, oh, I feel like you're with me. So
yeah, it's a constant reminder. I feel ever since I started telling the story, like doing our Mammy, she was the first person that I shared with everybody. And I found and met a lot of wonderful people who have either heard about her, grew up with her. I met the family that she worked for at one of the Algiers Historical Society meetings. He gave me a photo of her.
Oh, wow.
A younger photo of her. So yeah, it will be her. She has an amazing story. She raised like 4 or 5 generations of a family, lived a very long time, and she just incredible. Couldn't read and write, but could teach you anything. Just amazing. I don't know anyone stronger than her. She helped to take care of her husband, Alex, when he was injured on a sawmill. The family moved to New Orleans and she just worked nonstop. I don't know anybody stronger than her. And, I'll share with you guys like the sugar kettle that I received because of all of that wonderful support. It came from Port Allen and I have paternal ties there. And then I filled it with sand from the Mississippi River. And on top, there are these like lava rocks and they came from Ace Hardware. It's the only place that had them in stock. And it's on Magazine Street. And I knew that Mama Bell and Grandma Florence used to go in that building. It used to be a bakery where they worked. And so I went into that space. It was, imagine that, the only place in the city that had something you wanted. And it came from there. And she just constantly reminds me that she's here with me and she approves. So I keep her near and I'll never forget her. Never forget her until it's time to join her. Then I can just hang out with her and ask her a bunch of questions because there are some secrets going on there and I can't figure them out. But I want everybody to have that feeling like Gigi has that photo behind the wall. Like it gives you like this unbelievable strength to do things that you think you couldn't do. I want to be her when I grow up. I've already picked out my name, my grandma name. Like she's Mama Bell. I'm going to be Mama Nell. Like literally.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Not that I want grandkids. I need to put that PSA out. I do, but not right now. yeah. So, but yeah, incredibly strong woman. Incredibly strong.
I don't know if the answer will be the same, but who or what are you grateful for?
Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse.
Especially with a 5-year-old, I understand.
Anything about him? I've loved Mickey Mouse since I was a baby. Mickey Mouse brings me joy, right? Like it makes me happy when the world makes me sad. When we do things in the world that make me extremely angry, I can go to the happy place. And I got to go to the happy place this year. I went to Disney World in the middle of the pandemic. It's weird, but if, filled that little gap that I needed at that time. And yeah, I'm grateful that Walt Disney took the time to create Mickey Mouse. He makes me very happy. I have a huge collection. I am a Disney nut. The Disney store that was in Metairie, Louisiana used to call me when new things came in stock.
Oh,
okay. Well, Gaynell, I want you to meet Noelle. She is also a Disney nut. She has been to every Disney in the world except the one in
Shanghai.
China? Yes.
I went to the Hong Kong one. I just haven't been to Shanghai. Yeah. I grew up in Southern California, and my mom was a single mom, and she was a nurse, and then she helped run a nursing facility company. And from the time I was big enough to be on my own, in her opinion, which was probably 7 or 8, this was when you could drive up to the front gate of Disneyland, and you could buy a season pass for $29, $39 a year. She bought a season pass and used it as babysitting for me, because it's a giant cage, right? Like nothing is going to happen to you in there, because if you even fall down, like 6 guys come out of the bushes and like pick you back up. So like she would drop me off and like just do the shopping for the week or whatever without having to deal with me, and then come back in a few hours and pick me up. And I was responsible enough to like go in, do the thing, and come back out when I was supposed to. So like I grew up on Disney, and my mom, a person who was pretty poor, like got to use Disneyland in a way that like both enriched me and helped her. So yeah,
absolutely.
All of my tattoos have hidden Mickeys in them.
Yeah, you taught me. And it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard. Like I'm pretty sure there's something Disney around me that I could probably put my hands on, but yeah, you taught me. I don't have any Mickey tattoos. I did make an agreement with my husband that I couldn't have like Mickey sheets, Mickey comforters. He was like, I can't deal with you and that little rat. That's enough. But yeah, I'm with you. It's the happiest places. Like when you step inside of those doors, like you said, that big cage is like nothing's going on in the world. Everything's perfect. Everybody is great.
You can literally leave reality for like just one period of time, but you can leave it.
Yeah. And I love it. Like I always ask people, why is everybody so happy here? So it's a great place to work. I was like, really? Should I be here? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You just need to visit, because I wouldn't have a paycheck. I would literally spend my money on the stuff.
Also, your work is important. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am happy and grateful that Mickey was created. I'm really so happy he did that.
Do you have a favorite inspirational quote? And if so, by who?
I do. My grandma used to say that pain is inevitable. As long as you're living, you're going to feel it. And when you don't feel it, it doesn't matter anymore.
It's true.
So I was like, wow. And she said that to my mother when she was laying in a hospital bed. That's why I could get up in the middle of a fibromyalgia flare and it just says, hey, you're alive if you can feel this pain.
Yeah.
If you could give new educators or living historians one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't give up. Please don't give up. We cannot afford another generation of chaos and ignorance. Please don't give up. I hear so many stories about educators and just living historians getting frustrated by things that are happening in the world. But I mean, we survived the pandemic because of the arts. So can't give up.
Yeah. If you have a closing message on inclusion or equity and would like to send it out, please feel free to do so.
Mine is very simple. And, this is one of those questions that I really thought about, right? And I'm really thinking, and, my answer has a genealogy twist to it, right? It's like, why can't we just get along because we're all related? We're all related. I mean, if we sit down long enough, we're going to be related. It doesn't take much. We're going to find some common tie to tie us all together. And then what? We'll find out that we've all been hurting our family members. We're all related. It's really that simple. I mean, we could argue, but we still should have the barbecue afterwards.
Yeah.
We all should have a seat at the table.
Everybody's your cousin.
Everybody, especially in Louisiana, right? Yeah. Everybody's your cousin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not how scary that is. My husband's cousin is my cousin.
No, and when you said you have family from Clinton, I was like, I have family from Clinton. So we could be
hi, cousin.
Like, yeah, pretty much. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's all possible, right? Like my 6th great grandfather's from Belgium. I'm pretty sure I have cousins out there.
Yep.
It's not that complicated. I think we overcomplicate it. And just push over. It's okay. Just give someone a seat at the table. And if you can't give someone a seat at the table, then sit at the table by yourself, and everybody else will go and get another table, and we'll sit together and eat, and you'll be hungry.
Agreed.
He's not invited to the crawfish boil at all. Because in Louisiana, Gigi will know that all of the neighbors come to the crawfish boil. Everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, where you work, what you do. It's what are you bringing? Did you go and pick up the daiquiris from the shop? Did you go and get the beer from the store? It's not. Again, that's why I love New Orleans so much. It's everybody's invited to crawfish boil unless you're the drunken uncle who we have to kick out early. But you can still come, but you have to leave early. And that's just how life should be, right? Like, it shouldn't be that complicated, but we overcomplicate it because we don't realize we're all related.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective to have and to keep. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Gaynell. It was lovely to get to know you a little better today.
I appreciate the invitation.
And thank you also to our viewers for joining us today. We'll leave a list of Gaynell's information down below so you can follow her on all of her platforms.
Please do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And if you have a customer of color that you would like us to speak to and interview, we would be happy to do that. There's a form down below in the description box for you to fill out for us. And you can nominate yourself, by the way. So like, if it's you, please let us know. And make sure to leave a little love in the comment section for Gaynell because she might be stopping by to check that out. And I hope you guys all stay safe and have a great day. Bye, guys.